When working with straight lines, finding the gradient of a line is one of the key skills that you need to have. And along with things like knowing the formula for the area of a circle or the volume of a cuboid, you need to know that the gradient, first of all, is always represented by a lowercase m. And the formula that you use for working it out is the change in the y values divided by the change in the x values between 2 points. So if I pick a couple of points, let's do an easy one to start with, maybe that point there and that point there, and we have a line that goes between them. The gradient of that line is equal to, and it can be quite helpful to draw in a right angled triangle, the change in the y values divided by the change in x values. Now, somebody who's being a bit careless might just count 2 boxes and write 2. You do have to be a little bit careful. It's the scale that you need to look at. This is going from 4 up to 8. The change in the y values is 4. The change in the x values is going from 1 up to 5. It is also 4. But rather than just doing those sums in our head, it's slightly better practice to get used to doing it with coordinates and saying, okay, the change in the y values is 8 take away 4. The change in the x values is 5 take away 1. And so the gradient is equal to 4 divided by 4. This line has a gradient of 1. Let's look at another example. Suppose this time we had a point here and a point here. So again, I'll draw in the line. This is negative 5, 8. This is 5, negative 4. And as before, if you wish, draw in a right angled triangle. There would have been nothing at all wrong with drawing it here instead. That would have been equally fine. Now the gradient, and always, as with any formula, always write it out before you try to use it. Change in y over the change in x. And let's see what we've got. 8 take away, because it's a change, 8 take away minus 4. Now, some people here might say the change in x values is 5 take away minus 5. But there's a subtle error hiding in here. Look at what I've done. 8 followed by negative 4. That is this point followed by this point. Whereas here, I've swapped the order over. I've started with this point and finished with that point. So that bottom line is actually wrong. If I'm going to start with 8 here at the beginning of this calculation, I must start with negative 5 here. So minus 5 take 5. I could have done it the other way around, as long as I was consistent. Minus 4 take 8 all over, so I started with the minus 4, so all over 5 take minus 5. Let's do both of these and just check that they give us the same answer. Here, 8 plus 4 minus 5 take 5, and here minus 4 take 8 over 5 plus 5. And if you notice, they both make negative 6/5. So you don't need to do both calculations. I'm just demonstrating that you can start with these, subtract those, or you can start with these, subtract those. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Having started with 8 here for my y value, I must start with this x value in the denominator. So the gradient of this line is negative 6/5. And that tells us something really important. If we just go back to the first one, here we got a positive answer. And you can see that this is going uphill from left to right. Here, the line is going downhill from left to right, and we ended up with a negative answer. And this is always true. Positive gradients are always going uphill. Negative gradients are always going downhill. We'll leave that one there.